Alex walked carefully along the jagged canyon path, the dust of the alien world clinging to his boots. The sun above cast a harsh golden light, but the air was cold and thin. He carried a bag of supplies over his shoulder, destined for a remote mining colony on the other side of the planet. It was a routine trip, or so he had thought. The planet, dry and barren, had a way of surprising travelers. He paused for a moment to catch his breath and surveyed the area. The canyon walls rose sharply on either side. Cracked and weathered, and faint echoes of distant rocks tumbling could be heard. There was no life here, at least none that he could see. He adjusted the straps of his pack and continued forward, his eyes scanning for hidden dangers. That's when he saw movement, a small figure darting across the path. Before he could react, something grabbed his bag and yanked it away. He stumbled, caught off guard. "Hey, stop!" he shouted, sprinting after the figure. The thief was small, no taller than a child, with thin limbs and dark, hollow eyes that reflected desperation more than mischief. He clutched the bag tightly, his movements quick but unsteady. Alex chased him through the winding canyon, jumping over rocks and dodging low-hanging stones. It was clear the child had little strength, yet an uncanny agility allowed him to weave through the jagged rocks with ease. Finally, Alex cornered him near a pile of collapsed stone. The child froze, eyes wide, trembling. Alex caught up and bent down, trying to calm himself. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "I'm not going to hurt you. Just why steal from me?" The child said nothing. Instead, he looked at Alex with a mixture of fear and pleading, and pointed weakly toward the deeper part of the canyon. Alex frowned, confused. He had expected a fight or a demand, not a gesture. His anger began to fade, replaced by curiosity. Slowly he followed the child, who led him through narrow passages and over fallen rocks. The canyon opened into what had once been a settlement, now nothing more than broken walls and overgrown paths. Rusted vehicles lay scattered, and alien structures leaned at odd angles, their surfaces scratched and faded. The child moved carefully, as if he had memorized every crack and hidden pit. Finally, he stopped in front of a small, partially collapsed building. Inside, Alex could make out a figure lying on the ground. The child approached her quickly, kneeling beside her and offering the small portion of food Alex had initially intended to retrieve. The figure lifted her head, revealing a face that was both fragile and otherworldly. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dim light, marking her as belonging to a species that was rare on the planet. Her eyes were tired, almost resigned, but they sparkled faintly at the sight of her child. Alex took a cautious step inside. She's sick," the child said in halting words, pointing to his mother. His voice was small, almost swallowed by the canyon's emptiness, but the message was clear. Alex nodded, understanding. He knelt down and offered more of his supplies. "I can help," he said. The mother gave a weak smile, her lips barely moving, but her eyes showed relief. She tried to sit up, leaning heavily on her son for support. Alex noticed the child's small hands shook, not with fear, but with the effort of keeping his mother steady. It became clear to Alex that the child had been surviving on his own, scavenging what he could to feed both of them. The desperation in his eyes told a story far deeper than the theft of supplies. Alex's heart tightened. This wasn't a criminal. It was survival. He began to unpack his remaining rations and water, placing them where both mother and child could reach. The child hesitated for a moment, then helped his mother take small bites. Alex watched, fascinated, as the bond between them became obvious. The child was fiercely protective, even though he was weak. Each movement of his mother was met with worry and attention. Alex could see that their survival depended on their loyalty to each other, and nothing else. As he worked to help them, Alex asked questions. "How long have you been here?" he said gently. The mother tried to speak, her voice faint and hoarse. "Months, maybe years," she whispered. She coughed lightly, the sound hollow in the empty space. Alex could tell she had been abandoned. Her people had left, or worse, disappeared, leaving her and her child alone in the ruins. Alex felt a wave of determination rise within him. He had come to this planet on a simple trade mission, but now he realized his presence had a purpose beyond delivering supplies. He could help them survive. He could give them hope where there had been none for years. The child, sensing Alex's willingness to help, became more open. He led Alex to small hidden caches within the ruined settlement, containers of food, water purification devices, and even medical supplies left behind by the colony long ago. With Alex's help, they were able to organize the supplies. He showed them how to use the devices, how to purify the water more efficiently, and how to ration the food so it would last. The mother listened intently, her face still pale but her eyes showing trust and gratitude. Days passed, and Alex stayed with them. He repaired what he could of the old equipment and helped fortify their small shelter against the harsh winds of the planet. Each day the mother's strength grew and the child's energy returned. He began exploring nearby areas safely, learning from Alex how to avoid danger. Alex taught him small survival tricks, and in return, the child revealed hidden paths and small alien plants that could survive even in the barren environment. Alex learned more about the planet's history from the mother. She spoke of a once great civilization, of communities that thrived but were destroyed by plagues, wars, and neglect. Her words were quiet but powerful, painting a picture of a lost culture that had been almost forgotten. Alex listened, captivated, realizing that his role was not just to feed them but to help preserve their story, their legacy. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the canyon walls glowed in amber light, Alex sat outside with the mother and child. The wind had calmed and the world seemed peaceful for the first time in weeks. The child played with small rocks, stacking them carefully while his mother watched, smiling faintly. Alex felt a sense of connection he hadn't known before. This place, it can be more than ruins, he said quietly. The mother nodded, understanding his meaning. The child looked up at him, eyes shining with trust and hope. Alex realized that in helping them, he was also learning about courage, resilience, and the true meaning of humanity. As night fell, the mother and child rested, safe for the first time in a long while. Alex stayed awake for a bit longer, staring at the stars through the jagged canyon opening. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, that the planet's harshness would not easily be tamed, and that there were dangers beyond these ruins. But for the first time, he felt the satisfaction of making a real difference, of using his skills not for profit but to save lives and restore hope. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear: he would not leave them behind. Not now, not ever. And as the cold night settled around the canyon, Alex felt a strange warmth in his chest, the warmth of purpose, of connection, and of the small but unbreakable bonds that could survive even in the harshest worlds. For the child who had once stolen from him, and for the mother who had been forgotten by the galaxy, Alex became more than a visitor. He became a protector, a friend, and a bridge between humanity and a lost alien world. And in that quiet canyon among ruins and shadows, hope began to grow once again. The morning light crept into the ruined settlement, painting the jagged walls in shades of gold and red. Alex rose early, careful not to wake the child who had been tossing and turning in a restless sleep. He moved quietly, unpacking some supplies he had saved for today. Water needed to be purified, rations checked, and the small shelter reinforced before the planet's harsh winds picked up again. The mother stirred and opened her eyes slowly. Her movements were still weak, but there was a spark of energy that had not been there before. She smiled faintly at Alex. "You stayed," she said in her soft, shimmering voice. I did not think anyone would." Alex shook his head. "I'm not leaving. Not now." He handed her a cup of purified water and she took it with trembling hands. The child, sensing activity, peeked out from his blanket, rubbing his eyes and yawning. When he saw Alex, he ran to him with a small, crooked smile. We can do this?" he asked, voice filled with hope. "Yes," Alex said firmly. "We can." The day was spent gathering what little resources remained in the ruined settlement. The child led Alex to hidden caches of water containers, old preserved food, and mechanical tools left by the long-gone colony. He moved with a careful precision that surprised Alex. The child's desperation had honed his senses and instincts. Together, they brought everything back to the shelter, stacking rations neatly and repairing broken containers. The mother watched them, occasionally offering advice about how to store food properly, or which alien plants might survive in small soil patches Alex had managed to uncover. She showed him techniques for healing minor cuts and scrapes using local herbs, while Alex demonstrated how to use his tech-based tools to make these methods more efficient. A strange harmony grew between them, bridging species, generations, and experience. By late afternoon, the mother had grown strong enough to help with the tasks. She moved slowly but steadily, supporting Alex as he carried heavier items. The child watched them, fascinated by the teamwork, and began mimicking their actions. Alex realized that teaching these skills would not only help them survive, but empower them to reclaim some dignity and strength that had been lost for years. Evening came with a cold wind, and the three huddled inside the partially reinforced shelter. Alex had managed to rig a small heating system from leftover machinery, and the warmth brought a faint comfort to the weary family. The mother's breathing was steadier, her energy returning slowly while the child leaned against Alex, exhausted but content. "I will teach him everything," Alex said quietly to the mother, who nodded, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "He will survive. And maybe more. He will know how to help others like you." She smiled faintly. "That is all I could hope for," she whispered. Days turned into weeks, and slowly life began to change in the ruins. Alex, the child, and his mother formed a routine. They gathered water, repaired broken machinery, cultivated a few resilient plants, and explored nearby areas for additional resources. The child's curiosity grew, and he began asking questions about Alex's world, about humans, their technology, and how they survived in harsh places. Alex answered as best as he could, explaining not only survival skills but also lessons about trust, kindness, and courage. One day, while exploring further out from their shelter, the child stumbled upon a hidden tunnel. "There's more here," he said, eyes wide with excitement. Alex followed, finding a partially collapsed hallway that led to a small, forgotten chamber filled with old medical supplies. There were containers of preserved nutrients, healing instruments, and alien remedies that had long been abandoned. Alex's heart lifted. With these, the mother could regain her full strength much faster, and the child could learn the techniques needed to keep her safe. They carefully transported everything back to the shelter. The mother worked tirelessly, despite her weakness, combining alien remedies with Alex's knowledge to create healing mixtures that helped her regain energy more quickly than anyone could have expected. The child watched her, learning every step, every careful motion, and stored the lessons in his young, sharp mind. As the weeks passed, the mother grew stronger, eventually walking without support. The child laughed more freely, running through the ruins, climbing small walls, and even helping Alex with repairs and resource gathering. Alex marveled at the transformation, not just of their bodies but of their spirits. Where once there had been fear, hunger, and desperation, now there was hope, determination, and trust. One evening, as the three sat watching the alien sunset, Alex realized that the ruins were no longer a place of abandonment. The settlement, though damaged, was slowly being reclaimed. Small gardens had been planted in hidden corners, water containers repaired and purified, and the shelter fortified. The child leaned against Alex, pointing toward the horizon. "We can go farther?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. Alex nodded. "Yes, we can explore more, find safer places, and make this world better." The mother reached out and held Alex's hand gently. "You have done more than save us," she said softly. "You have given us hope. You are part of our family now." Alex felt a warmth that went beyond the physical comfort of the shelter. It was a connection that transcended species, age, and circumstance. He had come to this planet as a traveler, a trader, but he would leave, if he ever left at all, as someone who had made a real difference. In the days that followed, Alex began organizing small expeditions beyond the immediate ruins. They discovered other hidden settlements, pockets of survivors who had been forgotten, much like the mother and child had been. Alex taught them to survive, to rebuild, and to trust again. He showed them how to purify water, grow plants in small quantities, and repair equipment that had long been abandoned. Slowly, the forgotten civilization began to stir. The child, now stronger and more confident, took on small tasks, guiding Alex and the other survivors to hidden caches of resources and teaching younger children the lessons he had learned. His intelligence, honed by desperation and survival, made him a natural teacher despite his young age. Alex watched proudly, realizing that the child who had once stolen from him was now a beacon of hope for others. One day, while exploring a collapsed building that had once been a communal center, Alex found data crystals left behind by the colony. They contained records, maps, and instructions for the old technology that had powered the settlement. Alex shared the knowledge with the mother and child, teaching them how to use the information to make life easier. They learned to purify larger quantities of water, repair larger machinery, and even set up communication signals that might one day reach other human or alien travelers. As weeks turned into months, the trio transformed the ruins into a small hub of life and activity. The mother regained her full strength and began training other survivors in her healing techniques. The child grew bold, adventurous, and wise beyond his years, guiding newcomers and helping them adjust. Alex, once just a trader passing through, had become a protector, a teacher, and a leader in this small corner of the galaxy. The harsh winds of the alien world no longer seemed threatening. They had been softened by hope, knowledge, and determination. The settlement, once a place of despair, was now alive with energy and purpose. The child, now laughing freely, ran past Alex with a small bundle of herbs, calling out instructions to the mother, who moved with steady grace. Alex followed, smiling, realizing that the family he had saved was no longer dependent. They had become partners, capable of reclaiming their future. One evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, Alex looked out across the canyon. The ruins glowed faintly in the last light, small fires flickering where survivors worked to build shelters or cook meals. The wind carried faint sounds of laughter and chatter, a melody that had been absent for years. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was what humanity could do: reach out, help those in need, and restore life where hope had been lost. The child ran up to him, holding a small bundle of harvested plants. "We did it!" he shouted. His voice was full of joy and pride. Alex knelt down, taking the bundle, and ruffled the child's hair. "Yes," he said, his voice warm. "We did it together." The mother joined them, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. "You have given us more than survival," she said quietly. "You have given us our lives back. And for that we are forever grateful." Alex smiled. He had come to this world expecting a simple trade, a brief stop on his journey. Instead, he had discovered a family, a community, and a purpose far greater than anything he had imagined. The planet was harsh, unforgiving, and lonely, but together they had begun to change that. They had brought life back to forgotten ruins and hope back to the weary. As night fell, Alex sat outside with the mother and child, looking up at the alien stars. He felt the cool wind on his face and the faint warmth of the fires from the settlement. Somewhere in the galaxy, people might still be lost, alone, and forgotten, but here in this canyon he had made a difference. He had shown what humanity could do when it reached beyond itself. And as the child drifted to sleep beside him, and the mother rested peacefully, Alex knew one thing for certain. The universe was vast, full of dangers and despair, but it was also full of hope. And humanity's greatest strength was not technology, not weapons, but the courage, compassion, and will to help those who could not help themselves.